Yo people, welcome back to another video. Now, we saw on Monday Night Raw that Jey Uso has officially lost his World Heavyweight Championship after he only just won it at Wrestlemania 41 about a month and a half ago. Let's talk about where it went wrong in his lackluster reign, but also why Gunther winning it is a joke as well. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. What do you make of the championship changing hands on a Monday Night Raw to Gunther? What did you make of Jey Uso's reign as well? Let me know all of that down below in the comments, and I'd appreciate if you could leave a like on the video and sub to the channel. So let's start out with Jey Uso, and I want to say that I like Jey Uso, and what he brings to the WWE is something unique, is something different, but these are unfortunately the cold truths about what's gone wrong for him, even though he has had obviously the World Heavyweight Championship. Let's start out with Jey. He was mega over. I want to say about the second half of last year in particular. That was like his peak popularity. Some of his best stuff was actually when he was getting involved with the Judgment Day, Damian Priest, Rhea Ripley, and also when he was feuding with Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental Championship. This version of Jey Uso was great. He was still cutting good promos, he was still doing good acting, and he was still wrestling well, even if people want to say, oh, he only does 3 moves, but he was doing them well. It was still believable, he still had intensity, he still offered a lot in the ring. He was basically offering what he did for the Bloodline, but as a solo superstar, which is exactly what needed to happen. Then came the turn of the new year, and around this time, the YEET thing, it was still growing, but in my opinion, it wasn't at its peak. And if anything, it had become super watered down. Then came the Royal Rumble, where in my opinion, from this moment onwards, Jey Uso started picking up haters almost at will, and Triple H's booking didn't help him either. What I will say about the booking and about WWE is that I respect them for being brave enough for picking Jey Uso as the Royal Rumble winner, and it proves that anyone can win it. It was kind of refreshing if I'm being honest, and I myself was fine with the idea. However, they chose to do it at the worst Royal Rumble possible, and I say the worst because everyone wanted John Cena to win the Royal Rumble. It's his goodbye year, so if that didn't happen, people were already gonna be angry with whoever won. However, because it was Jey that won, I guess it annoyed people even more because this was the most stacked Royal Rumble on paper. We had John Cena, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, even people like LA Knight. I'm sure people would have rather all these superstars that I've listed win it ahead of Jey Uso. So not only do you upset this John Cena narrative, but you upset the fans of all these other wrestlers because Jey Uso isn't a better wrestler than any of those people I just mentioned. So it becomes a pylon for Jey Uso and his fans. With that move alone, you've set him up for failure initially, but it would still be repairable if they delivered with a good build-up to WrestleMania along with a compelling story. To cut a long story short, they didn't do that. They had about 9 weeks to make it good, and they fumbled heavy. I'd say only when Jimmy Uso got involved in the storyline between Jey and Gunther did it start to be somewhat relevant, and I actually liked the Jey Uso botching and making it part of the storyline, but that literally only happened because of the actual botching, not because it was a part of the planned storyline. Let's not forget Gunther either, because the way he got booked and he had been booked also contributed to Jey Uso not having much momentum in the feud, as well as the feud just being boring and lackluster. The reason I say that is because Gunther's own reign as heavyweight champion was very boring. Yes, he's a great wrestler, there's no doubt, no one's saying he isn't, but he just lacks that extra charisma, that energy to get you to believe in him as a character. He's only a menace because he holds the title for a long time, not because his actual character feels like a menace. When he had the IC championship, to be fair, he was a menace on both fronts, but with this current one, he was just boring. So we have Gunther with a boring reign facing Jey Uso, who not a lot of people wanted to win the Royal Rumble. And by the way, what also killed this feud was the fact that they had just faced each other for the title at a useless Saturday night main event show that Gunther won. On top of that, Gunther's record versus Jey Uso was about 3-0, 4-0, something like that. So we knew Jey was going to win this at Mania, but the build-up was poor. They tried to do the underdog thing, but we saw it just didn't work. We saw last year Sami Zayn did the underdog thing pretty well against Gunther, but it just didn't work with Jey. As for Gunther, he was doing nothing relevant in the build-up for this feud anyways. He was having squash matches versus jobbers and irrelevant people, surprise attacking Jey Uso, which doesn't suit his character because he's meant to be about honor. Even though he is the ring general, he is a heel, he does have honor. So him doing this surprise attack, it makes him look weak because he has to surprise attack. And then if he wasn't doing any of that, he'd be running away from Jey Uso. The only time that Gunther felt like a real menace was when he made Jimmy Uso bleed out, and that was the only relevant moment from this feud, the only moment that really raised the stakes. And in 9 weeks, one segment is all that they gave us that was actually good, and that ratio is not good enough. As for the match itself at WrestleMania, it was okay, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't good, it wasn't Mania level even, to be honest. And what cemented even more hatred towards Jey Uso was not because that he won, even though people hated him for that regardless. It's because he made Gunther tap out, and that was just comical even for me. There's no way Jey Uso makes Gunther tap out. So after he wins the belt, all his promos after WrestleMania were basically trash. They've been worse than his actual pre-Mania promos, which even those were shaky, but somehow it got worse. There was no purpose to them, it felt weak, and his promos basically became yeet. That's it. The whole 4 letters, 1 word, yeet. That's it. And by the way, this is a WWE problem because all the people with catchphrases, they are rinsing it. I feel like they get told behind the scenes, you have to add your catchphrase in any promo that you do, otherwise you're going to be in trouble. And it's really becoming cringe. Even Jacob Fatu, he's one of my current favorites, but he's literally become a yada da mean and all gas no breaks and all this stuff. Sometimes his literal promo, his 1 sentence promo will be all gas no breaks yada da mean. So it's really becoming cringe. Even Tiffy, she's another one that always squeezes in, oh, what time is it? It's Tiffy time, all this shit just for a quick pop. Also, Jey Uso, on top of doing bad promos, he's been doing this weird overacting thing recently where he scrunches his face up, he tries too hard to look angry, to look stressed, and it looks kind of stupid. He looks like an addict. I think Jey Uso just got lost in the whole gimmick and he forgot to still add that human touch and feel to his character. The relatability of his character and the genuine emotion that his character can actually express, he's left all of that out for the corporate yeet stuff. We saw it throughout the bloodline. He's actually one of the characters with the biggest emotional ranges, but Jey's just lost himself in being this yeet mascot. When you are the top guy, especially as a babyface, you need to still be able to be yourself, still have your own personality and character, while balancing out the merch selling catchphrases and the gimmicks and all of that stuff. Also, if you haven't quite been able to figure that out, then we need you to be wrestling well. And we know that isn't exactly Jey Uso's strength, especially as he gets older, but just in the collection of everything, promos, acting, wrestling, it's all been going downhill. He's actually been worse as a champion than when he was Intercontinental Champion, or when he was with the Judgment Day, or when he was in the Bloodline. Even when he was facing Roman Reigns at SummerSlam for the title, he was even doing a lot better then than he is now. I just think that Jey Uso has struggled with the pressure of being the top guy. Apart from saying yeet and selling shirts, I think WWE has just given up on him. Let's not forget, Raw's numbers have been declining a lot recently apparently. So all of this is happening while Jey Uso is the face of Raw essentially, because he is the main champion for the brand. And I think WWE has just had enough. They've panicked, and instead of blaming everyone as a collective, and by everyone I mean themselves, because all the stories across the board have been pretty trash, but no, they blame Jey, and I guess they're done with that guy. I'm personally someone that has been calling out for shorter championship reigns, by the way. But what they did in terms of Gunther just winning it, I don't mind that. I don't mind 50-day reigns and all of that stuff. We need more of it because we just had a 4-year reign with Roman Reigns. We had a 1-year reign with Cody Rhodes. Gunther had 10 months. Like, these reigns are just way too long for no reason. A lot of the story is just forgettable and boring, so you might as well have shorter reigns where the feuds are impactful and memorable, as opposed to, oh, have a 2-year reign and we will only remember one feud. So this brings me back to Jey, a 50-day title reign. He defended the title 3 times, which is actually workhorse numbers, and I can respect that about him. It's actually 33% of the defenses that Gunther did in his reign, and his reign was 8 months. So I don't want to see people bashing Jey and, oh, he doesn't do this, he doesn't do that. He does fight every week when he's needed, so at least just allow him with that one. However, as for the defenses, and this is where the booking has to take a hit, this is where Triple H has to take a hit, and people have to be held accountable apart from Jey Uso. Jey Uso, from the 3 title defenses, 2 of them were on Monday Night Raw and 1 of them was on Saturday night's main event. Then, when he has the opportunity to defend the belt at a big pay-per-view, he's thrown into a random tag team match that no one cared about. And while all of this is happening, you'd think, oh, well, if he faced Gunther, if Gunther is setting himself up for a rematch, then I'm sure Gunther, after he lost the belt, he went on a rampage, he was defeating multiple superstars, building up momentum, right? Wrong. He had a feud with a commentator, beat the commentator in their match, and showed respect to him. He shook his hand after the match as a heel. That's all he's done. Then he asked for a rematch, wins it back at ease by making Jey pass out. Again, no problem with the actual win. I'm happy with short reigns, I don't mind. But Gunther's return to being champion just felt random. He's had no momentum, he's done nothing relevant, and it just feels like if Gunther doesn't have the championship, then WWE just doesn't know how to use him. He isn't the only one, by the way, because I say the same thing about Rhea Ripley, but that's another story for another time. Now, Jey does technically have a rematch clause, but I think we're all tired of this match. This would be the 4th title match between these two in 6 months. I don't think we'll see Jey get that title back, if I'm being completely honest. I think they saw the experiment, they tried it, it failed. I do think Jey got complacent with the title and just relied on the whole yeet for his promos and the yeet entrances and the encores and all that stuff. I think it all got to his head. It must be annoying for Jey because his 2 solo championships have been the exact same. Short-lived, can't beat the same person 2 times in a row to close out the feud, and loses the belt in a title match on a Monday Night Raw, not even in a pay-per-view. We saw as well that his best match was against Seth Rollins, and that's because Seth Rollins, as much as people want to hate him and they get annoyed by him, he can make most people have amazing matches, and it's proof with Jey Uso in that championship match. I think the only way we see Jey Uso get that belt again, or even have a glimmer of hope, is if he turns heel, and I'm not sure if WWE is willing to do that. If he was to turn heel, I'm here for it. I want to see Jey Uso be a heel. Some of his best work when he was in the Bloodline was obviously as a heel. So I want to see more of it. And that would allow us to maybe see a bit more of Jimmy. Jimmy could be like a manager for him or something. But I think a heel Jey Uso could rejuvenate his character. And he can focus on being himself rather than hiding behind yeet. But overall, I think it's annoying that they basically sacrificed a Royal Rumble and a WrestleMania moment for Jey Uso just to have that story end like a month later to the same person that he faced at WrestleMania. If you were going to make him lose the belt so soon, I would have rather they experimented with a newer talent, or someone who is more over than Gunther, or someone who is more relevant at the moment than Gunther, or has put in more work than Gunther, because like I said, Gunther has only faced Pat McAfee since WrestleMania, and then he just gets to do the rematch and win. It just feels a bit random, but it is what it is. It just shows how poor the booking has been from Triple H all round, not just for Jey, not just for Gunther, all round, that there's no one else really to do anything. They're putting all their eggs into one basket with this whole Seth Rollins, Mr. Money in the Bank, with the whole new faction, Paul Heyman stuff. But yeah, as always, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Let me know what you thought of Raw, what you thought of the title match. What does the future hold for Gunther and Jey Uso? I'd appreciate if you could leave a like on the video as well, sub to the channel, and thank you for your time.